Hello again. This lecture uses War of the Worlds as a way to explore one of the most important points about horror and science fiction. They are not just stories about monsters or invaders, they're reflections of the societies that produce them. Horror films, and in this case science fiction horror hybrids, serve three main purposes. Firstly, they remind us of what frightens us. Secondly, they give us a rehearsal space for coping with danger and trauma. Finally, they are deeply reflective of the values, priorities, and anxieties of their time. War of the Worlds is perfect for comparison because it has been adapted so many times in so many different forms, each one shaped by the moment in which it was made. By looking at four very different versions, 1938, 1953, 2005, and 2025, we can see not only how filmmaking styles have changed, but how our fears have evolved. Please also note that H.G. Wells, writer of the original 1898 novel War of the Worlds, is a controversial historical figure. Let's start by looking at how each version begins, because the opening of a story tells us what's important to its creators. 1938 Orson Welles radio broadcast. This is adapted mostly faithfully from H.G. Wells' novel, but Wells stages it as a live news bulletin interrupting a regular music program. It's so convincing that many listeners thought it was real, even though, to be fair, the broadcast clearly identifies itself as fiction at the beginning and the end. 1953 George Powell film. Again adapted from the book, but with a Cold War twist. The introduction focuses on the planets themselves, framing Mars as an envious, dying world looking toward Earth as its next home. 2005 Spielberg film. Still adapted from the novel, but the emphasis is different. The opening voiceover lingers on the idea of bacteria, nature's tiniest killers, as the ultimate cause of the alien downfall. This plays as both a nod to the original ending and a reminder of our vulnerability in a post 9/11 world. 2025 Rich Lee version. This one departs entirely from Wells' text and throws us straight into a high-tech surveillance state. It's less about alien worlds and more about weaponized intelligence, mistrust of government, and the way technology shapes conflict. We won't go in chronological order for today's viewing because our focus is on the 1953 film, but here's the plan for our excerpts. 1938 radio. We'll listen to a section that shows how skillfully the broadcast mimics real radio reporting. Notice how the realism builds suspense. And remember, they do tell the audience it's fictional, but many miss those bookends. 2005 film. This is steeped in post 9/11 imagery, collapsing buildings, panicked crowds, an invisible enemy. The ending can feel almost anticlimactic. The aliens die not because of human heroics, but because they have no immunity to Earth's microbes. 2025 film. We'll note how it reframes the story as one about humans being their own worst enemy. Mistrust, cybernetics, and weaponized intelligence dominate. I'll be careful not to spoil the ending, but pay attention to how paranoia and surveillance replace the older, foreign invader fear. 1953 film. Here we'll spend most of our time. First, we'll watch the trailer to get a sense of the era's anxieties. Nuclear war is everywhere in its imagery. Then we'll look at the scene where the female lead, Sylvia, a librarian with a master's degree, meets the male scientist she admires. The first scene we watch from the 1953 version is a time capsule of 1950s social mores. Women could get advanced degrees, but in acceptable fields like librarianship. Her thesis topic? Studying him, a scientist, as preparation for, well, marrying someone like him. She consistently downplays her own expertise and defers to his authority. And there's a flirtatious moment where he removes his glasses after she's noted he wasn't wearing them on his Time magazine cover and says, "When I want to see something up close, I take them off." In 1953, that was steamy. The second scene we will view is the ending, with the survivors gather in a church, and the victory is framed as divine intervention, God's wisdom in using the smallest creatures of creation to save humanity, sort of like framing the common cold as miracle. Christianity, male superiority, and military might are all clear priorities for the movie-going public of the 1950s. So what do we see across these versions? Each adaptation mirrors the fears of its own time. Whether it's panic over real-time news broadcasts in 1938, Cold War nuclear anxiety in 1953, terrorism and disaster imagery in 2005, or state surveillance and AI warfare in 2025. The alien invasion is always a mirror, sometimes literal, sometimes metaphorical, for how we see ourselves in moments of crisis. Next time, we'll continue exploring the concept of the summer blockbuster as collective seasonal catharsis. For now, please consider this question. Do you think that the 2025 version is a good indication of today's social mores and fears? What would you focus on if you were making the film? In what ways would your version be the same or different? During class, this lecture will be integrated with watching the video clips. Outside of class, this is listed as a reference video. Many thanks.